Hey guys, welcome to the video. It's Oscar. Thanks for joining. Today I wanted to talk about 3 good teams and 3 bad teams to choose when you're doing breaks in this year's NFL products. So a quick history or a quick summary on what a break is. An NFL team break, for example, is when you get like a case of products like, Topps Chrome or Panini Prizm. So in the NFL, there are 32 different teams. So you would select a team and you would pay a price based on that team. So like, for example, the Cincinnati Bengals had the first pick. They selected Joe Burrow. The Bengals would probably be the most expensive team in that current year. Whereas if a team had maybe no draft picks in the first round, or they just didn't draft any good offensive players, or speculative, of course, then maybe that slot would be a lot lower. And then a team like, for example, who drafted, say, all offensive players, or like, Indianapolis Colts, who drafted 4 offensive players within their first 6 picks or so, they might be a little bit higher. So you choose the slot that you want, you choose the team, you pay that price, and then when the case is broken down, they open up all the packs or whatever the situation may be, you get all of the players' cards within that team for that break. So the good things and the bad things are you could invest in a team, and depending on the price of the product, it might be $50, it might be $100, could be $500. You could theoretically get absolutely nothing, right? So you invest your money, you pick that team, and maybe no big cards, or maybe just very little comes out for that specific team. Or I've seen people invest, $30, maybe $80, $100 and hit a one of one of a player that was, an $800 or $1,000 card. So it's rare, but you can sometimes get into a break with just a small amount and hit $1,000 or $2,000 card. It's not realistic. Breaks are definitely not a good quote unquote investment. It's a gamble. And if you specifically like a team, if you're doing this because you're collecting a specific team, it's great because you're going to get all the base cards, all the autographs, the defensive players, the offensive players, the rookies, the veterans. So you're going to get everything. So if you're collecting and you, again, are collecting a specific team, breaks are great. As an investment, as a way to make a profit, maybe not the best bet, unless in some seasons, in some situations, there are good values. And that's kind of what I want to talk about here, are teams that I feel could be a good value when you're selecting for team breaks this year. So a couple things I want to point out before I jump into the 3 good teams and then the 3 not so great teams. There is a very, very big difference between different products. And for some of us who haven't been collecting or buying and selling for that long, if you look at a product like, say, Panini Contenders or Panini Prizm, 2 of the most popular products in football trading cards, when you look at their autographs and their inserts, they're more geared towards rookies, the younger players, and so on. You're not going to find a Joe Montana autograph or a Tom Brady autograph. And if you do, there might be like 10 in the entire product or something like that. Whereas if you're looking at a National Treasures or Immaculate, something that's a more premium product, those veteran autographs are a lot more common. So the spot prices from each product can vary pretty dramatically. In Panini Prizm, for example, there may be no Tom Brady autographs, right? Let's say last year. And the Patriots haven't had a great draft prospect in years. They always draft the number 30, 31, or 32, right? So if you were to get in Panini Prizm hoping to pull a big rookie, but you bought the Patriots, it's not going to happen. Whereas National Treasures, the Patriots last year would be a huge spot price because Tom Brady autographs and so on and so on. So each product, the spot prices are going to vary because what you get out of those products can vary very dramatically. I hope that makes sense, guys. Okay, so let's talk about a few of the good teams and a few of the not so great teams. First team I want to talk about are the Buffalo Bills. So the Buffalo Bills drafted 4 offensive players. Starting in the 3rd round, they took Zach Moss. In the 4th round, they took Gabriel Davis, who's a receiver. Zach Morris is a running back. So a 3rd round running back, 4th round wide receiver, 5th round quarterback, and 6th round receiver. Now, what's really interesting about the Bills is they took Jake Fromm, quarterback, in the 5th round. He was expected in most drafts to go in the 3rd or 4th round. So the fact that he slipped, and on top of that, Josh Allen is not necessarily locked in as the starter for the Bills. So running back in the 3rd round, wide receiver in the 4th round, Jake Fromm in the 5th round, another receiver in the 6th round, Patton, and then as a bonus, they took AJ Epinesa in the 2nd round, which I believe was their first pick, was their 2nd round pick. Now, he's a defensive end, and he was actually in some drafts about a month ago projected in the top 12 to 15 picks. He did slip to the 2nd round, but if he pans out to become a star, and so on for the Buffalo Bills, that's a little extra bonus. So 4 offensive players, running back, wide receiver, quarterback, wide receiver, top-rated defensive end who could pan out to be a star in the NFL, and then Jake Fromm backing up Josh Allen, who isn't necessarily locked in. I really like the Bills this year. So, depending on what the price is for that team compared to the Bengals or compared to the other top teams and so on, I would be looking at the Bills because of their draft. The second team I would like to talk about are the Indianapolis Colts. Again, 4 position or offensive skill players drafted. In the 2nd round, they took Michael Pittman, and in the 2nd round, they also took Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor on a lot of draft boards was considered the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd best running back in this year's draft. And this year's running back draft was considered good. Maybe not great, but if he's the top 1 or 2, drafted in the 2nd round, kind of under the radar. I think that the Colts with Michael Pittman, wide receiver in the 2nd round, Jonathan Taylor, running back in the 2nd round, and then they took a quarterback in the 4th round, Jacob Eason. Now, for all of us that was watching the draft, Jacob Eason kept dropping and kept dropping and kept dropping, and their quarterback situation right now with Phillip Rivers and Jacoby Brissett is not necessarily set in stone. So Rivers may have a year or 2 left. Brissett could be the starter, he may not. So if Eason comes in and outperforms Brissett, he could be starting within a year or 2. You couple that with the fact that they have 4 total offensive players, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Eason as their 4th round pick. I think that the Indianapolis Colts could be a really great value when it comes to breaks this year. The third team I want to talk about, I know it's going to be very controversial. I really put some time and effort into thinking about this, and I may be wrong, guys, but Aaron Rodgers is going to get cut or traded. It's not going to happen this year. It will very likely happen next year in the offseason. So I assume a year from today, by this time after the NFL draft, Aaron Rodgers won't be a Green Bay Packer. The Packers traded up for Jordan Love in the 1st round, which is very rare for a quarterback that you don't necessarily have plans with, if that makes sense. If you think about all the guys that were traded up for in recent years, they all basically started within a year. So the Packers have a plan with Aaron Rodgers, and it doesn't look good. He's getting older. He is signed through the 23 season, meaning 2023. So after this year, he'll have 2 years left on his contract, and those years, I believe, are close to about $40 million a year. I want to say $35 or $36 million a year. So he's getting older. He and the team, their relationship has soured partially because of this pick. But even in recent years with Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, there's been a lot of talk where maybe their relationship isn't so great. So they drafted Jordan Love for a specific reason. And Aaron Rodgers will not be a Packer for too much longer. And the Packers have a huge fan base. So if Jordan Love comes in and replaces Aaron Rodgers, that's a big first step. In addition to that, the Packers did draft A.J. Dillon, a running back, in the 2nd round, and tight end Josiah DeGuara in the 3rd round. So quarterback 1st round, running back 2nd round, tight end 3rd round. Again, skill positions, highly drafted. They're drafted for a reason. So I expect those 3 to come in and, within a year, within 2 start. And that Jordan Love, it's going to be tricky. It's going to be a high risk because if Rodgers plays for 2 or 3 more years and then retires, you're waiting a long time to, resell those Jordan Love cards. If my prediction is right, his contract is getting too big for diminishing skill set, and they just traded up to draft Jordan Love. I think he's out of there next year. Those are my 3 picks for teams that I think would be good values if you're looking to do breaks or just to have some fun. And again, I consider breaks to be gambling. Being a New York Giants fan, I love doing breaks because I just get the defensive players and the rookies and the veterans, my Eli Manning's base cards. I don't care. I love my team, so I just collect them all. Now, here are a couple of teams or a few teams to avoid if you're looking to turn a profit. And I can't stress this, guys. Breaks are fun and they are great if you are a collector, if you love your team and you just want to have some fun and collect different cards of all the players on your team. Breaks are great. If you're looking to make a profit in this year's breaks, I would avoid these three teams. The first one are the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, with their new head coach, looks like they're trying to make a statement, and they drafted all defensive players. 7 picks, 7 defensive players. So unless you're into defensive players, which some of us are, or unless you're just a Carolina Panthers fan, there's really nothing to invest in there long term because let's be real, everything is offensive players. Quarterback, wide receiver, running back, some tight end. So defensive players get no love. Therefore, the Panthers, even though they're going to be dirt cheap, there's pretty much nothing there. Second, the New York Giants. The Giants, in a lot of accounts, had a really solid draft. They took 3 offensive players, but all 3 of those offensive players were on the offensive line. I believe 6 or 7 defensemen, linebackers, cornerback, and so on. So there's nothing there as far as the New York Giants, unless you're looking for an Eli Manning autograph in National Treasures or something. The Giants don't have any skill position players that were drafted, so their rookie class is basically not something that you would want to invest in. And third, some of you guys might disagree with this. I think this is going to be controversial. I had some trouble actually putting them down here, and then I started thinking about it. I think that this is fool's gold, and here's what I'm getting at. The Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they did select Jalen Reagor in round 1, who I like. I think as a wide receiver, he has first-round potential. He would have went a little higher in most years, and they desperately need receivers. So Jalen Reagor, I think, is not a bad investment if you're looking to potentially make some money and sell him in a year or two. Jalen Hurts, the quarterback that they drafted in the second round. I started thinking about it. Okay, what's going on with Carson Wentz, right? If you look at the Aaron Rodgers situation where they drafted Jordan Love, and you look at the Carson Wentz situation where they took, Jalen Hurts in the second round, the situations are very, very different. Aaron Rodgers is getting older. Aaron Rodgers has a huge contract. Aaron Rodgers has kind of soured lately as far as their relationship with the Packers. Carson Wentz, the only big red flag on Carson Wentz is he's somewhat injury prone. So looking at the Eagles depth chart, they have like Kyle Lauletta, who's a former Giant, who I know a lot about, nothing special, and not much behind him. So Wentz did play 16 games last year, but the last 2 seasons he did have some injury concerns. I feel that the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts in the second round as an insurance policy. So if you think that Carson Wentz is going to get hurt, if you think he's injury prone, if you think Carson Wentz isn't going to be playing, the Eagles might be a good selection as far as breaks are concerned because they also got a wide receiver in the 5th round and a wide receiver in the 6th round. So they took 3 receivers and quarterback Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is what I would call fool's gold. He's going to be delegated to a backup role. Carson Wentz is under contract for several more seasons, and he's young. His only red flag was basically a injury concern, but he did play 16 games last year. I think Jalen Hurts is an insurance policy. They literally drafted him to be a backup. So I would stay away from the Philadelphia Eagles because they're going to be a little higher priced. And I think Jalen Hurts is just going to sit for several seasons and potentially never become a starting quarterback in the NFL. Now, let's take a look at this video in a few years and see what happens. But guys, those are my 3 picks, good, and my 3 teams, not so good when it comes to breaks this year. I hope you found this entertaining. Please give me a thumbs up if you did, and if you subscribe, that would be even better. I'd really appreciate it. Stay tuned for more videos. Thanks, guys.